Welcome back. Hope you had a nice lunch. We'll start this afternoon with a session on the legal side of social gambling. Eva, let me just make sure I pronounce it rightly. Eva Langer from Hogan Lovells International will talk about the situation that exists currently in Europe and abroad when it comes to gambling and social gaming regulation. It's a very hot debate right now. Lots of companies thinking or fearing regulation will happen also for social, free-to-play gambling. So it would be very interesting to get the thoughts from an expert in this area.
So, hi, my name is Eva Langer. I'm a lawyer, normally specializing in IP rights, trademarks, designs, copyright in the gaming area. But as so many gaming companies try to get into the gambling area, we also deal with regulated industries, with the gambling regulation. And, well, I'm a gamer myself, so that's how I come to this industry field. And I work at Hogan Lovells, which is a big international law firm. We have about 40 offices worldwide, 2,400 lawyers, and that's our feature. We can deal with legal problems worldwide inside one firm. To my topic today, I'm talking about the current legalities of gambling and realities of operating in a regulated business. I'm trying to make this not a law lecture, because I know those are quite dull. I try to give you an insight on how this will, this regulated industry will affect your business if you try to work in the gambling area. So, first thing I want to talk about is what is gambling in our legal sense, because we lawyers are always quite strict with our definitions and we see it all quite strict. Gambling in our legal sense is playing a game of chance for money with the possibility to win money back. This means, for example, poker for real money, every casino game where you can get money back. But there's quite a new thing on the market, which for us lawyers, it's quite new. We call it pseudo-gambling. That's this regular gambling games, but you can even pay to play this game, but you don't have the chance to get any money back. You might get some inside features of the game, you might get inside currency as a winning, but you never get real money back, and this is called pseudo-gambling in our legal sphere. And so that's my first tip today. If you do want to make a casino-style game, but you don't want to get regulated, you don't want to deal with all the legal stuff around the game industry, you should make your game a pseudo-gambling game. At least at the moment, pseudo-gambling, where you don't get money back, real money back, is not regulated anywhere in the world. This will most likely change in the future, but at the moment, you're free to go. So now I want to talk a little bit about how this regulation will affect your business. There will be strict laws if you are in a regulated industry that state how and if you are allowed to operate at all. So that's what you have to keep in mind. In any state in the world, there will be a law that says if and how you are allowed to do your business. And what are possible aspects? What do they regulate normally, generally? This is just a general overview that may be regulated, but it doesn't mean in every country in the world these are regulated areas. But that's what most likely is affected by law. On the one hand, we have the if. Is a certain game allowed at all? Can you have a casino-style game? Can you have betting? Can you have anything like that? And then there's the question, are you allowed to provide it? Is there a state monopoly in the country? Is there a license system? Can you get a license if there's a license system? Or do you have to be a national of the state to get this license? And then on the how side of regulation, there normally is some restriction on who is allowed to play your game, minors are normally not allowed to play gambling. Then there's restrictions on where it is allowed to play, offline and online. And there are normally advertising restrictions. And all that you have to keep in mind if you want to operate in this business. There may be laws that regulate if and how you're allowed to do your business. So now, this law thing has a problem that you don't know from your business normally. Most of you are working on the internet, and the internet is available worldwide. But we lawyers are quite old-fashioned, and we think in frontiers and states and don't do anything outside of our country. We even don't do anything outside of our federal state in some countries. So that's what you have to keep in mind. You work in a business where your game is available at first worldwide, but you have to deal with laws that apply on a country level or even on a federal state level. And you have to comply with those laws. And the most important thing is you don't have to comply only in one country with the laws. You can't go to, say, Malta and see that you comply with all the laws there and then everything is okay. You have to make sure that you comply with the laws in the country where your company is situated. You have to comply with the laws where your servers are. You have to comply with the laws where you offer the game, especially, let's say you have a company in Malta, your servers are in Malta, and then you offer a game in German, directly targeted at the German market, so you might get problems in Germany if you offer that game in that way. And in some countries there are strict regulations which players are allowed to play a game concerning nationality. So you have to comply with laws concerning the players, the nationality of your players. Those 4 laws you have to keep in mind. There are 4 states possibly affected by your game. Another thing you have to keep in mind, that's, well, the internet changes fast, but there's the problem that the laws in this area also change very fast. It's the only area that I know of that changes so fast. And what may have been legal yesterday doesn't have to be legal tomorrow. And we have this in Germany, we have this, yeah, we have a big lesson here in Germany, because until 3 weeks ago, we had 15 federal states who had a state treaty which forbade online gambling in total. And we had one state, one federal state, who had a state law that allowed online gambling under certain restrictions and on a license system. But 3 weeks ago, on January 24th, I think, Schleswig-Holstein, the country with its own law, or the federal state with its own law, decided to kill its law and to participate instead in the state treaty. So within 3 weeks, the whole system in Germany changed totally. And you have to keep in mind that the law in Schleswig-Holstein was only valid for about a year. It took place on the 1st of January 2012. So it's really, really changing fast if you consider its law, and we normally work like in decades. So what's really important, if you think about doing some gambling in any country, and you do a research, ask a lawyer and ask him, can I do that? Then do it fast after you had this opinion of the lawyer. Don't wait about 4 weeks or 6 weeks. Think about it, should I, shouldn't I? Because then you will have to check again if the law is still applicable in this country. That's important to know. So what have you to consider if you try to start a gambling business? About location. What I've already said, you have to keep in mind you have to comply with up to 4 different laws for your game. And you have to keep in mind that there are different kinds of regulation system. Somewhere it might be complete prohibition for online gambling, there might be partial prohibitions, regulation by monopolization. In Germany we have a state monopoly on lotteries. Then there's licensing systems, and then there's the free market. So you have to decide what you want, where you want to go, what you're willing to accept as legal difficulties. So, things to consider concerning your players. What you can see here is something we know from copyright. If you try to get on a YouTube video from Germany that has music in it, you normally get the sad face because you can't see it from Germany due to copyright reasons. And that's the same. You must think about something like that if you start an online gambling service. Because it's, in some countries, it's not even illegal to provide, I say, an English game in Malta, in a company based in Malta, that strictly targeted only as a Maltesian people. But it may have countries in the world which still think that you do something illegal if you let those players from that country play in this Maltesian game. So everything you do is targeted at the audience in Malta, but still you get some problems if someone of this country C or D plays in your game. So you have to have some effective measurements to prohibit those from playing on your game. And the most effective measure is IP address blocking. I know that you can circumvent it, but well, most lawyers don't, and most judges don't know how to, and they think it's so difficult that's not possible for the normal people, and therefore IP address blocking is considered a quite effective measure. In some countries it would also be possible to go with credit card location, so that you only allow players with a credit card from a certain country to play your games, but that's not a so sure way to. In some countries it might not be a good thing. Then you have things to consider concerning age. What you see here is the starting page, the landing page of YouPorn in Germany, where you get asked, are you over 18? You are only allowed to use our system if you're over 18. Please click here to say that you are over 18. This is not an effective measure to prove that someone is over 18. If you want to comply with laws prohibiting minors to play your game, you can't do that. This will not keep you on the safe side if someone wants to sue you because you let minors play. What you can do, we have a very German system. I'm not sure whether this is possible in other countries. It's called Postident. You go to your local post office, you show your passport, and then the post office will mail or will tell the company you wanted to know that you are over 18. That's the most effective measure in Germany for proving that you're over 18, but I'm not sure whether this works in all countries. Then you can go with credit card, but there you have the problem that, well, I can steal the credit card of my parents to go on the internet. It's not that difficult, so it's not really a valid measure, and there may be credit card companies which issue credit cards to minors, so it's also not that good a measure. Then ID cards, scanned ID cards. In Germany, this is not enough. There are already decisions on that. Just because someone mails you a copy of an ID card, it's not a valid thing. And email addresses is also, everyone can get an email address, so this is not possible for having minors. I'm really surprised that that someone even tried that, to say if you have an email address, you're definitely over 18. Yeah, you shouldn't do that. And you have to keep in mind that there are varying age restrictions for varying nationalities. So in Germany, you can drink beer starting from 16, but in the United States, you can't. And it's the same with who can play your games. It may be 16, 18, 21, depends on the country. So you may have to implement in your game a system that decides, so you're German national or you're playing from Germany, so you only have to be 18, or well, from Germany you aren't allowed to play at the moment, but it's just a thing. So, and if you come from the United States, you're only allowed to play if you're over 21. What you also have to keep in mind that you're not allowed in most countries to advertise as you want. There are quite strict advertising restrictions. There might be a complete prohibition of advertising for certain games. There might be restrictions in marketing channels that you're not allowed to advertise on TV or on the internet, as we have in Germany. And there are restrictions on how to market. It's a little like in the tobacco industry. There are countries where you have to say, well, this is an addictive game, don't play it in your advertising, and stuff like that. And it differs from country to country, though you have to look, are you allowed to advertise in this country? So a last thing I want to say, that in countries where you're allowed to have your gambling and where you get a license, you normally have to collect certain data about your players and about your revenues, about the stakes that a single player bets or gambles for on your site, because you have to report quarterly, yearly, or all 2 years, depending on the country, on all this data to your government, because they want to know how addictive the games are or what are you doing. Sometimes it's because they don't want bad people to wash the money on your sites. So you have to have a database where you have the number of players, at least the height of stakes that they are playing for on your site. There are also countries where you have to have a list of gaming suspensions. If you impose gaming suspensions on some players, you have to list that. Yeah, and if you are in a license-based system, you have to report every relevant circumstances, every change in relevant circumstances. If your company owner changes or if some financial things change in your company, then you have to report that. So I have some websites for further information. I think you will see it online if you try. The first two are mainly for Europe, and the other two are sites where you always find a first impression on what you're allowed and what not. And if you have further questions, you can always email me. We have a blog that deals with gaming and new media topics, which you can find here, and thanks.
Thank you, Eva. Any questions from the audience? We have a microphone here in the middle.
Hello. I have a quick question on the pseudo gaming, basically, in the beginning you mentioned.
Yeah.
I remember that 3 years ago, at least in Germany, and the big American publishers were scared shitless by just being, how you say, subject to an official inquiry, especially in Germany. There you couldn't even hand out items which could have, even if it's not money, it might have a monetary value attached to it, right? If it's traded on eBay for $100, what I give away, it is, some people can make even a living in this. It's indirect gambling. They used to be scared shitless, and we as designers couldn't even implement these strategies. That has changed. Now pretty much everybody at the moment is doing it. Like, it is, the pools of non-monetary and monetary items are mixed wildly. So at the moment it's way better than it was. And here's my question. Your expectations, I mean, you're watching the state very closely, how they behave. Is that a nicer situation gonna last, or are we expecting, how you say, a kickback or whatever, like on the pseudo gaming side as well in the near future?
Well, we had this problem with pseudo gaming when we lawyers learn about a new thing that's on the market. We discuss in between us, does this law apply to this case? Do we think if we can trade it on eBay, is this still, can you still get money on it? So it's more a kind of, we lawyers talked about it and now decided it's okay as long as you can't directly get money from it. So I think that was more like thing on definitions we had in the last 3 years, what you mentioned. That's why the situation changed here. I think that there is quite a risk that in some time in the future, but law works really slowly, in the next 5 years, there will be a ban on, or the same restrictions on pseudo gambling in general that are now in effect for normal gambling. And then it's totally it doesn't matter whether you have if you can change it directly or indirectly or not at all. I think there is a risk that they will ban it in total or giving it on a license system.
Any other questions?
You mentioned like 4 ways which are used to establish that person is eligible to play from the age perspective. So from what I saw, the only effective measure was post-ident. Is it so?
Well, in Germany, I would say this is the only really effective measure. I'm not sure how you would do it in other countries where this system doesn't really work. I'd say, well, you could go with the credit card, but I mean, I can steal it.
Any other questions from the audience?
A direct follow-up question on this one. I mean, you say post-ident is the best measure to minimize your legal risk, basically, that you expose yourself to. Apparently, YouPorn doesn't give a damn, because they have a method which is clearly not satisfying the German lawmakers. What is there, and I assume they're not incorporated in Germany, I assume they don't have their service in Germany, so they take every measure, but they clearly target German customers. What do you, I mean, legal is always, you weigh your risk, right? What is the worst case scenario for them? That they are shut down by the state, that they say you...
Yeah,
okay.
but the problem is that with YouPorn it's a little different because they provide a different service which is not so regulated in some countries. So you may go to some country where you just can provide YouPorn and have it on your servers, but online gambling is regulated nearly everywhere. So you have this problem nearly everywhere, and it's not so easy to hide your service if you do online gambling as it is if you do YouPorn.
Eva, I have one question for you. Obviously, online gambling is regulated in quite a few countries, but what about free-to-play gambling or pseudo-gambling, as you called it? Do you think something will happen there? Do you think governments and regulators will start regulating those kind of games as well, and why, and how do you see that happening?
I think they will start to regulate it, especially in the European Union, because in the European Union you normally have this free service or free trade of services, and you are only allowed to put bans on it if it's a coherent system of bans, if it has a reason for the greater good to ban some services. And they always say in the European Union, well, we ban those services because they are addictive and it's bad for the health. Well, there are studies that say it's not different whether you play free-to-play casino games or if you can win money back. And so if you want to have a coherent prohibition system in Germany or in the European Union, I think you need to ban also, or put restrictions equal to the other online gambling areas, also to free-to-play or pseudo-gambling.
Any last question from the audience? Okay, Eva, thank you very much.